Hey everybody, welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name's Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you quit that job, that just over broke job, by investing and having financial freedom and real estate. Now, today I'm super pumped to bring on a Master Passive Income student who's been doing so well in his real estate investing, buying real estate, actually capturing lots and lots of, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in equity on deals, also making cash flow, but also helping other people also to invest. He is one of the Rube Club, Colorado Rube Clubs, which is the real estate wealth builders clubs that we have. It's a monthly meetup. He is running the one in Colorado, and I'm super pumped to bring on a fantastic investor, John Plauché. Thank you so much for being on the show, John.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Man, this is so terrific that you started investing, have properties now, are making money, and now you're also wanting to help people with having a monthly meetup. So talk to me about like what are you doing right now in your real estate investing and how is that helping you to buy more real estate? How are you getting more cash flow and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I feel like just kind of going through the course, sticking with the basics. I have two rentals right now, both recently purchased my first year as a student, making sure it hits that 250 cash flow mark that you talk about. And if you want, I can just go ahead and dive into the numbers real quick if that works for
Well,
you.
before we jump into the numbers, so you're not you weren't born with wealthy, like you had you're a normal regular everyday people just like
Oh
everybody
yeah,
listening to
man.
the show. So where did you come from? Like were you working a job before and what made you want to get into real estate investing?
Yeah, so originally I'm from New Orleans, and Grant Cardone actually talks about this. I feel like living in New Orleans, Louisiana, I was kind of surrounded by a very poor mindset. So actually, once I made the move to Colorado, Denver specifically after Hurricane Ida, that's kind of when I started thinking bigger. Read the Purple Bible, Rich Dad Poor Dad, read Think and Grow Rich, and then I had a job as, or still in it, as a civil engineer, and I have a far commute. So I was like. One day I was like, all these real estate guys have like so much financial freedom. I want to learn more about this. Got on my Spotify and then found your podcast and just went all in 100%.
I love it. I love it. And honestly, I love having a podcast. I've had it since 2015, I think is when I started it. And it's just so much fun being able to, and it's interesting where I'm talking to a microphone and there's lots and lots of people that listen to it, but I try my best to talk to the one person that's listening because there's always only one person listening at the end of the podcast and showing them that like, man, it's not as unattainable as people think it is. I think it's kind of hard to invest in real estate, especially if you didn't grow up wealthy and all that sort of stuff, but it's so much easier than that. So you dive into the podcast, you start learning that it's absolutely possible. It's not rocket science. And what made you want to actually, join the coaching and being part of everything we're doing here at Master Passive Income, helping you to get that first property? And now you have two properties, which is great.
Actually, you, Dustin. So, like you, I'm a hardcore Christian. I felt like every time you talk about your faith, it really motivated me. Uh, you have a lot of similarities. I played college sports too. I played rugby at LSU. So just the similarities you and I had, and then I was like, I'm just going to commit and do it because I know Charles had talked about how he tried to do it on his own and it didn't work, and I had a failed entrepreneur business in COVID, and I was a solopreneur and didn't work out. So I was like, I'm just gonna pay the money and have the team to support me and never looked back. And it was just a no-brainer ever since.
I love it. And so I did it the hard way where I did not, well, there wasn't, I couldn't find
The
anybody
hard way
like
is
me
doing
who
it by
was doing it.
yourself, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so it takes longer when you try to do it by yourself because you don't know the shortcuts. You're trying to figure everything out. And so I love the idea that you said, you know what, I'm just going to actually help myself by paying for coaching, paying for courses. I want to fast track my way to success because I took the long way, and it took me like 8 years to eventually get financially independent. Where a lot of students now they're getting like 3, 4, 5 years because like just shorter amount of time because I've already gone through all the pain and I've already coached lots and lots of people go through the pain and so that they don't have to go through that. And with the coaching and the courses and everything, you got your first property this year. Talk me through well, first, how long did it take you before you started becoming or you were a master passive income student? How long were you looking to do it before? And then once you got started, what was that time frame getting started to getting your first property?
Yeah, that's a great question. I felt like before I had joined, I kind of knew I wanted to buy a rental property, but I was kind of loosely just like, oh, I'll buy my first one, and like, 3 or 4 years down the road when I'm older, because I just turned 29. I think you bought your first property at 28, so I'm happy that I got started at a similar age. And then after I got through the course, I like dove into all the material. I think that took about 5 to 6 months roughly. And then once I finished all the material, I was like, I have to take action like right now, or this is never going to happen. So then I locked it in, got my first rental in Birmingham, Alabama, about 6 months in. And then I recently closed on my second rental in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I'm originally from. And that is two rentals in 1 year and just hit my 1 year with MPI as well.
Man, that is so good. Now, talk to us about that property in Birmingham. This is your first property,
Yep.
and talk about like the purchase price. Who do you have to manage it? How much passive income are you making on the property?
Sure. See, I'm a numbers guy too. I have it all written down, ready to go. My first rental, Birmingham, Alabama, bought it for $153,000. Found a fantastic property manager who's made the whole process very seamless. The passive income right now is 260 a month, and then I'm applying the shred method, who you interviewed Adam Carroll with recently. So I'm doing like a baby shred where the extra cash flow goes to like shredding the principal of the loan.
That's fantastic. Now, I love the idea of shredding, getting out of debt. There's also a quick little thought that if that little extra cash flow that you might have, you could be saving that to buy the next property and then snowball it once you buy, keep getting more and more properties to make more and more money to then pay off your loan. But I think they're both great strategies, and really just depends on your risk tolerance and really your financial goals. Like my goal was to, as quickly as I can, get as many properties, and I didn't have lots of options. In fact, I didn't know about the shred method back when I was doing this, and I probably would have been doing that. But I kept borrowing money, kept borrowing money. Eventually, I had enough properties where I could pay off the loans, just literally pay them off, which was just a blessing to have. Okay, so $263 every single month, which is amazing. Great job there. And then shredding the mortgage, which is good. Do you have equity in that now? Do you feel like you have a good amount of equity?
Definitely. And I did 20% down conventional, like you recommend. Side note, I also got it through a vendor at Rube Club, or yeah, that was the one in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, Rubicon, yes.
RubeCon, yes. Yeah, so many Rubes. At RubeCon, it was literally the day after RubeCon in St. Louis that I closed on the property. I was
Wow.
already talking to the vendor, but I wanted to meet them face to face just to kind of have some peace of mind before locking it in. And
Man,
then I
that
was
is
just
so
so amped from
fantastic.
RubeCon. I was like, I have to take massive action like right now. And that was when I got my first property. So it all
I
worked
love
out.
it. And that's the thing about Rubicon is you get so much great information, contacts, energy, and
Yep.
excitement that if you don't take action, just like always, like your world the gets back into, swing of things of life and life starts to hit you again and you kind of push it aside. Well, if you take action right after Rubicon or right after you get that sense like I need to do it, if you make yourself do it, my goodness, it just makes it so much easier in the future. Okay, so you have this one property, you have equity in it now, which is terrific, and then making cash flow. And then you get your second property. And I want you to walk us through how you captured so much equity. Was
Oh
it, I think
yeah.
it was $80,000 in equity. And
$80,000 equity capture. Yep.
yes, and this is in Louisiana. Talk us through this entire process. And I have a couple questions I want to ask you.
Sure. Let's see. Yep. So second property, as I mentioned, it's in New Orleans, Louisiana. I bought it for $130,000. And this one is a little special because it came about in a very organic way. Thanks to Dustin's advice to always talk about real estate and tell people you're a real estate investor. That's kind of how I got the deal. So this property belonged to my family and it had a long-term tenant who's a family friend. And they wanted to sell the property, but they didn't want to displace the tenant. So I honored the tenant's rent and got the property at a great deal with $80,000 equity capture. And then the brownie points on top of that deal, the money that we got with the deal helped my mom to buy a home to retire in. So it was a win-win-win scenario
My
for the
goodness.
tenant,
And the
for
tenant
me,
there
and for
is
her.
Yeah, the tenant's still at a good rate, or, for rent. You bought it to where you're still have some passive income coming in, and it's a good, really good property. And then your mom has a house now. Wow, that's
Yep. So
exciting.
as Michael Scott says, it's a win-win-win scenario.
I love it. And so somebody, and I'm glad that you started this story about you getting this property with that. It's not uncommon for something like this to happen. Somebody might say, well, John, you had a family member that had this. I don't have that. Well, you would not have gotten this deal if you were not already investing and if you were not telling people that you were investing, doing the things that you know that you need to do, obviously through the coaching and everything, walk you through. This is how we get deals because we are talking to people. We're getting our name out there. It might not be a family member. It might be a business that you go and visit and they have a property that like they're just tired of and you're just talking about investing in that. Hey, I have a property I might want you to buy. And so when you're out there talking to people, letting people know that you're an investor, you're putting little lines of fishing lines out there, fishing poles with lines out there trying to fish for a home. And so eventually you might grab one, or you hopefully will grab one the more lines you put out. Now, is there any lessons in both of these properties that you've learned along the way that you can share with everybody?
Yes, I would say one of the biggest challenges, I feel like everybody kind of goes through this. It's really normal. The two words analysis paralysis. So I had that. It's easy to overthink every decision, especially when buying your first rental property. And if it's an out-of-state rental, that can be a little intimidating at first for a, first-time buyer. But I've learned that if the numbers work and you have a great team, such as a great property manager, you can really push through the doubts and build momentum. So that first deal I had in Birmingham, I've never seen it. My grandmother thinks I'm insane because I've never seen it, but I don't need to see it because I'm confident because my property manager is so good. So I would say just push through that analysis paralysis, make sure the numbers work, and build a great team. And you can easily push through and do what I did and buy two properties in 1 year.
And
And
making
like Dustin
yourself
mentioned, he keeps it pretty simple blueprint to follow as well.
Yeah, as best I can, because I'm a methodical, like step by step person. You just give
Yeah,
me a list
same.
of things to do. Yeah, I'll do it. Say X, Y, and Z. In fact, anybody that wants me to do something, I said, would you please email me a list of the things I do, and I'll knock them out. But like that's how I think, and so that's how I created everything. And I like the idea of what you did. So you also went to Rubicon, get more encouragement, get more education. You're a part of Master Passive Income. How was it getting past the analysis paralysis when you had the step-by-step system, you had calculators, you even had group coaching with me and everybody else? Did that help you get past the analysis paralysis?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I feel like the MPI calculator, the Excel sheet you give us, it's like 10 out of 10. It keeps the numbers black and white. It makes it really easy to see like, hey, this is a good deal. Hey, this is a bad deal. And it kind of made it a no-brainer once I actually made the offer. So I feel like that gave me a lot of confidence. And then also I just had so much built up energy after Rubicon. I was like, if I don't take massive action right now, dude, I'm going to explode.
I love the idea of massive action. And in 1 year, you get two properties. Talk to me about how your wife is on this. Like, how is she feeling? How is she? How was it hard for her to get on board with it?
Uh, I felt like she was supportive, maybe slightly skeptical at first until I actually bought the first rental, until it becomes tangible, like you actually have it. And then after that, she was like, "Oh, what you're doing works." She was a lot more supportive. And it actually worked out with the second deal. The bank wanted like extra reserve funds that I was not ready to give because I have two rentals. So I actually was able to put her on the title for the second one, and she got a piece of the pie. So she is actually a first time real estate investor now too. So it kind of worked out for the best. Because at first I was all stressed about it. Then I was like, oh, this can be an optimistic win for all of us. And then she got involved, and now she can learn more about it too, and is obviously more supportive too now that she's an investor.
That's great. Was that a investment loan, like a second property, or was it investment property loan, a conventional one?
Yeah, it was conventional, 20% down, just like the first
I
one. The
I
first
haven't
one I
heard.
had
So
buyer sell down points, so I got a pretty good interest rate of 5.5%. The second one was a little bit higher, like you mentioned with your last property. I think mine was close to like 7.3%. So I'll be definitely doing a bigger shred on that one, and then a more of a baby shred on the lower interest one.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that the lender wanted you to have, was it more of a reserve?
Yeah,
Is that
it was more reserve funds because I didn't know this. Since I had the first rental, they wanted like a bunch of money just in case something happens, I guess. And I wasn't expecting to have all that reserve funds needed. And the closing costs were a little bit higher on that second deal than I expected. So she came in, we brainstormed, and it kind of worked out for the best for everybody.
was it a DSCR loan?
No, no, it was
Oh,
conventional. So
okay.
the loan is in my name, but she is on the title. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Yeah, because my lender says it makes the most sense just to have one person on the loan for simplicity. And then when we buy our own personal residence in the future, she will be on that loan, but I'll be on the title. And then we
Okay,
can
walk
keep
me
doing
through
more
this too.
rentals on my name with the
Yep.
loans.
Yeah. And it's really loans. Like you could have as many properties as you want under your name. It's really the loan. That's usually the hang up on for most people. Now, I
Exactly.
want to ask you a question because I get this question all the time. People are renting an apartment, a house, whatever it might be, and he asked me, "Hey, Dustin, should I buy a house to live in first, or should I buy a house to rent and be an investor and buy a house to start making money?" And I love it's always every single time they use the word "or." Like, should I do this or that? Like, you have to pick one. I'm like, well, there's probably other options in there, which I'll walk you through. But talk me through that process. You said you don't have a primary residence, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
We
So
rent
talk
and
me
we
through
live
that.
like kings instead of owning a house in Denver. As the viewers probably know, Denver, Colorado is very expensive. So I went the unconventional approach this last year, where I bought two out-of-state rentals that were probably like one-fifth of the cost that it would have been to buy it in Denver. But we are now saving our money and we do plan to buy our own personal residence. And if we find the right property, I would like to do a house hack and have a tenant in the basement because there are some single families in Denver that do have basements that are pretty good for like Airbnb or just a long-term tenant. I was looking at duplexes too, like you mentioned, but I don't want to buy like a duplex and pay over $1 million for it. The numbers just didn't work. But the single family with the basement, the numbers were a lot more favorable.
I have a friend that lives in Denver, one of the cities around there. I can't remember exactly which city is, but in the Denver area. And he has a basement and he Airbnbs that. Like it has its own access to the outside. It has stairwell to go up to the top. And he decked it out. Looks really, really nice. Even has a rock climbing wall in there because
Oh wow.
yeah, he likes rock climbing. It's another,
I like rock
um,
climbing too, so that's pretty cool. He did
yeah,
that.
amenity that he has a hot tub as well, but he keeps it rented and it's generating money to pay for his mortgage. And he's like, this is great. All I got to do
Exactly.
is make sure I lock my door so they can't come up into
Right.
the top and they just come and they make a lot of money. So that's great. Now, what is your plan to grow investment properties? Not say the primary. The primaries are great. We're going to go down that route. I think it's a brilliant if you can go that route of having house hacking with that, what about buying out of state? What's your plan either for to get more cash, find more properties?
Yeah. So my current plan, as I mentioned with the shred method, reducing the debt on my two rentals and pay off other expenses like an engagement ring because that was not exactly a small purchase. And then later on, once I'm shredding the debt on the New Orleans property, I think the rates will probably go down a little bit with the election and all that fun stuff. And I'll probably do a cash out refinance and use that money to buy more rentals while also saving up my money to buy our own single family personal residence.
And I love the idea for the Louisiana property because you have so much equity in doing a cash out refinance
Hmm.
because you have a higher interest rate, you have equity, and when you refinance, Lord willing, it's going to be lower. Let's say 5.5%. That would be fantastic.
Right.
And refinancing at 5.5% and taking that cash out, your payments will probably be very similar to what they're at now, but you have that extra, let's say 50 grand. maybe more, just that you can use to invest in other properties. And so that is such a fantastic way to actually continue to grow. Now, the other thought is getting a home equity line of credit. Well, in my opinion, I love them both, but they're for me, if I have a really great interest rate, let's say 4%, 3%,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to refinance it because I'll refinance at 7%, that'd just be silly. Use
Right.
that equity by getting a home equity line of credit. Rather than if you have a high interest rate, then refinance it and get a permanent loan that's lower and you get the cash out. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I actually think your interview with Adam Curl was spot on because in Rich Dad Poor Dad, they mentioned that the house is actually a liability, not an asset. But if you do what the HELOC approach that you and Adam are talking about, you actually flip your house from being a liability into being an asset. And then you could double down and do what I'm trying to do with a house hack and have a renter in the basement.
Every single
I
house
totally
that I
agree with you.
buy, yeah, I agree with you. Every single house that I buy as a primary residence, I buy it, get a lot of equity in there, and then get a HELOC and secure a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on it. I have one on my Arizona property. This property I have in Tennessee, I'm going to
Mhm.
get a HELOC on as well. Hopefully, as much as I can, 100, 200,000, something like that. But then that is equity that I can, because it's a HELOC, it's a revolving line of credit. I can pull it out, buy a property, and then refinance that next property, pull the cash out, pay off my HELOC. All right, you just have access to capital, which is what's going to help you to grow your business. One quick last thing, because I want to hear your thoughts on how you're going to be able to do this with this refinance. So my property in Arizona, still have a HELOC on it. It's got $250,000 HELOC, and I'm looking to the end of this year, in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be closing on a property in Akron, Ohio. Rents 12, 1,300, somewhere around there, which is great. I'm buying it for 125,000.
Nice.
So I was looking to get a DSCR loan, putting 10, 20% down. But I was like, oh my goodness, the cost is like $6,000 for this loan. I was like, well, I already have my HELOC and it's a 7.5%, basically the same interest rate that I would if I got the DSCR loan. I'm just going to save myself literally $6,000 that I'm going to pull out my HELOC, buy this property. And honestly, if it's renting at $1,200 a month after expenses, I'll probably be pocketing or clearing 900, $900 a month. My
Mhm.
goodness, in 1 year, I'll have majority of the entire house paid off. 12 months times 1,000, that's $120,000. I'm going to have all that money paid off. I'm going to have a property free and clear after 1 year using my HELOC. So this is just one of many different ways. So tell me about that once you get the refinance and you're then gonna buy in Louisiana, gonna buy in Birmingham. Like, what's your next process and what you're gonna be
Yeah.
doing? And any questions or thoughts on the HELOC?
Sure. And then I guess my question real quick, when you said the 6,000, that was for closing costs, right? That you were talking about with your
Closing
deal?
costs, title
Mhm.
fee, like all that sort of stuff. That not just that because I'm gonna get a title check and everything. But yeah, points, fees, appraisals, origination,
Right.
all that sort of stuff. It's just really expensive.
Yeah, you're playing it smart because even if you do that approach down the road, you still have that option of doing a cash out refinance too if you want to because you have all that equity. But as far as what your question was, yeah, my plan, I think I'll have enough equity built up in 2025 where I can easily pull out $100,000 in the Louisiana property with the cash out refinance. And then if it makes sense at the time, I'm definitely going to buy more rentals. And then the two markets that I've been liking a lot, especially the first one, Birmingham, Alabama. I did what you said, built the business first, have the LLC situated and all that fun stuff. So I already have that situated and I'll probably buy 1 to 2 Birmingham rentals, hopefully. And then the second market I liked was Little Rock, Arkansas, which I know Dustin or not Charles
Charles
also.
does.
And yeah.
Yep. That's great. And so let's imagine you did not get the refinance. Let's say worst case scenario, rates go up. Interest rates go up and it's like 9, 10%. So you can't get you might get a HELOC maybe if you can, but you can't do the refinance. You still need to continue investing. You don't have that money. What's your plan then?
Honestly, I've been looking into creative financing. I know you guys talk about that a lot. So looking for seller finance. I know they're a little bit harder to find, but I would probably go if that was the scenario that you gave. I would probably either do a seller finance deal or I would try to do private money. Buy it with private money. It's all cash, so there'll be very low closing costs, and you could probably get a little bit more cheaper purchase price because of that cash deal, and then just wait for the rates to go down then do a cash out refinance.
Those are great. And also doing subject to, where let's say you find a distressed
Oh, I
seller
forgot
that
about that
has,
one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So those are creative ways to have no money out of your pocket. Here's another idea. Throwing it out there for you. Your mom has a house free and clear now. She could get a HELOC on it, and then you could borrow from her as a private money lender. That could be. My parents, they would just give me the money, just let me,
Yeah.
pay for the interest and stuff that's already. But who knows? She might be able to make a little bit of money. But that's just a thought. Like that's access to capital that she could be able to utilize to bless her to make a little bit more money, bless you to buy more properties, and then once that's paid off, you have a property.
That's actually genius, and I didn't think about that, so I definitely wrote that down. Thanks.
Yes. I'm so
Hooked
excited.
up.
Well, and that's the thing about coaching and seeing so many different scenarios for myself as well as students. You come up with options that it's like, oh, wow, here's an option or there's an option. When I first got started, I didn't know all these options. I had to either
Right.
figure them out or learn from somebody else, like another investor I just ran into, started talking to. And then once you have these options in your brain, kind of like a tool belt, we have a bunch of tools. Well, all these different options, you don't know that they're there unless you actually buy that tool and put it in your tool belt. Then you say, "Oh, here's a tool that I could use for this job or this option that's around." So it's getting around other people. That's why Rube Club is terrific. Rube Con is terrific. Being a part of Master Passive Income. There's so many other brains that can help. Like, oh, I've heard about this or I see this. Now, talk to me about Rube Club. So the Real Estate Wealth Builders Club that we're putting on. You love investing and you're definitely all in on investing and you're wanting to volunteer your time to have a monthly meetup for real estate investors just to come gather together, network, and help each other out. Talk to me about your vision and reason why you wanted to be a part of Rube Club.
Yeah, I feel like I want to have higher quality connections, especially in Denver, with fellow real estate investors. Because, like I mentioned, I'm only 29 years old, so I feel like a lot of my friends who are in the same age demographic as me, they don't know anything about investing. They think I'm just a crazy
In
guy.
my age demographic, like I don't know anybody that's investors too, so you
Yeah,
have to
right.
you have to find them. Yes.
So we're kind of like a rare breed, like a 1%. So I want to have more connections with like-minded individuals. And I found that at Rube Club especially, I found a lot of people that are very similar to what I was looking for in friendship, but also just career-wise. And I feel like it's kind of hard to find nowadays. So that was kind of what I was hoping to get out of it. And then just building that community in Denver. I read the 2 Hour Cocktail book like you recommended. I loved it. We're really excited about launching Rube Club in February, and it's going to be Colorado Rube Club, and hope everybody can make it.
That's it's fantastic. And so the book that you were mentioning, John, is the 2 hour cocktail party that's really helping people to network, to get to know each other, rather than let's just get into a room and then everybody just go talk. Well, I know I appreciate it when the host tells me what to do. Stand up,
Right.
grab somebody right next to you and then talk about this. Like, okay, that gives me the freedom to not feel like I'm being awkward to grabbing some or talking to somebody. And it frees you up and everybody in the room up to really network, to really just get to know each other. We ask fun questions like, what's your favorite breakfast
Mhm.
item?
The
What's your
icebreakers.
favorite
Yep.
pasta? Yeah, crazy questions that get you talking about things outside of business and real estate. So you get to know each other on a personal level. And then that leads into your investing.
And I feel like the book mentions it, we've all been to an event that was just like not the best for networking, and you kind of just leave early and feel like it wasn't really a good ROI of your time. So I felt like reading that book really gave me the guidance of like, all right, this is how we're going to do Rube Club Colorado. We're going to make sure it's worth everybody's time. We're going to build the connections the right way, use the right icebreakers, and make the goals very clear for everybody.
I love it. And you know what's fun, John? So, I and my walk with the Lord, I've been a part of so many churches. Well, sorry, I've been in probably three churches, been elder, been a pastor, started like dozens of ministries and ran and led thousands, literally thousands of people
Oh
in
wow.
not just serving, but leaders. Like I've been leading them, and they're doing the work. So I've been blessed to be a part of lots and lots of great churches that I'm blessing to be a part of. Or I'm blessed to be a part of. But then I thought, you know what? I actually really appreciate the idea of having a home church where we bring people in the home and we don't grow outside of our house. So maybe we get 5 families, and that's the max we can grow. And then as you're discipling them, as you're everybody's growing together, then the families would then start their own home church and they would go and do it all over again, and we would just keep multiplying. I think God's a God of multiplication, not addition. Hey, we got 5 people last week. Well, I think God is multiplying. Like if
Right.
I bring in 5 men and families, and then those 5 men go out and start their own home churches, and those each one of those 5 make 5 more, and there's 25, and just keeps multiplying. So fast forward, I'm going to be using the 2 hour cocktail party idea, bringing people into our home, talking to them, networking them, having fun so that we can get to know other people and then go that route of inviting people into our home church or basically a home Bible study, home church type of thing.
Mhm.
So, anyways, what are your thoughts about doing something like that with the 2 hour cocktail party idea?
I think that's genius. Yeah, I think because I have made a couple of like high quality relationships in my church, Foothill Church in Denver, and I feel like that's like one of the more high quality people you can ever meet is a fellow follower in Christ. So I think what you're doing is genius and definitely a great idea.
Awesome. Well, John, this is so terrific. I absolutely love that you are investing. Love that you're a part of everything that we're doing here at Master Passive Income and RubeCon as well. So, for everybody listening, we want you to come. We actually have 3 different Rube clubs right now. We're going to be starting more as the Lord blesses us to find great people that are going to be running them. I'm not going to be going to every single city all month. I'm not going to be doing that. But we have to have great people. But right now we have Charlotte, Phoenix, and now starting up in Denver. When you hear this, you probably Denver's going to be starting up. And we're going to be growing out more, but you can go to rubecon.com/Rube Club, or it'll be a link on rubecon.com. There'll be a link in the description, but we want you to come and hang out with us and experience what it's like to really just be a part of a family. That's really what we try to do with Rube Club. RubeCon, Master Passive Income, is saying, hey, we're just think of us like your next door neighbor who just found a way to make money, and we're just trying to help you out. So, John, this is fantastic. I really, really appreciate you on the show, man.
Thank you. Can I give my final advice to the group?
Oh, please do. Sorry to cut you off. Absolutely.
No worries. I wanted to leave an action item for the group. My advice to anyone listening is simple. Start talking about real estate and surround yourself with the right people. Your next deal might come from an unexpected conversation, just like mine did.
I love it. John, you're doing great, man. And I'm super pumped to hang out with you at RubeCon and Rube Club as well. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Dustin.